The city of Veilon was alive with noise and light, its towers glowing with strange colors. Its streets filled with creatures from many worlds. Traders shouted, buyers bargained, and the smell of smoke and metal filled the air. But in one corner of the city stood a place darker than the rest, a place called the Market of Chains here. Cages stood in long rows, made of steel and glowing energy. Inside the cages were living beings, some human, some alien, some so strange that even the human eyes could not understand them. The crowd moved slowly through the rows, pointing, laughing, and buying as if life itself was just another thing to trade. The sound of cries, whispers, and chains mixed into a cruel song. In the middle of this terrible market walked a young human traveler. His name was not yet spoken, but his eyes told his story. He was not a rich man, not a powerful soldier. He was simply a wanderer, curious about the universe. But when he stepped into this place, his heart grew heavy. He could not understand how anyone could treat another living being like this. He kept walking, trying not to stare too much, but then he heard something. A voice, soft, weak, trembling, and yet filled with a strange strength. It was not the shout of a seller or the cry of a prisoner. It was something else that called to him. Please, human, buy me and save me from them. The words froze him. He turned slowly, his eyes searching for the source, and then he saw her in the shadow of one cage. An alien girl sat on the floor, her wrists bound with glowing chains, her ankles locked with heavy metal. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly under the lights. Her eyes were bright, like twin stars, but they were filled with pain. Her hair was long and dark, tangled, but even in this broken state she looked different from the others, as if she carried something more. The crowd around her laughed. One alien trader shouted, "Don't waste your time, human, she is cursed. She is dangerous, no one wants her. She is worth less than dirt." The others joined in, mocking her, calling her names, treating her like an animal. But the human could not look away. Her eyes locked on his, and in that moment he felt something strange, as if she was not just speaking with words, but with her very soul. He felt her fear, her pain, and her desperate hope. The market faded. The noise disappeared, only her voice remained in his mind. Please, buy me, save me from them. He stepped closer. His hand touched the bars of her cage. The cold energy bit into his skin, and he whispered softly, "Why me? Why ask me?" Her lips trembled, her voice almost breaking. "Because you are the only one who looked at me with eyes that see me as alive, not as a thing." The laughter of the traders grew louder. One alien shoved another and shouted, "Go on, human, buy her if you're foolish enough. She will kill you in your sleep. Her kind is poison. You cannot save her." "No one can." The human's heart raced. He had no plan, no reason to get involved. Yet something deep inside told him this moment mattered, that if he walked away, he would regret it forever. He looked at her chains, at the marks burned into her skin, symbols that seemed older than the market itself, cruel and heavy. He felt anger rise inside him. The trader of her cage stepped forward, his face wide and cruel, his teeth sharp, his voice like a growl. "If you want her, human, you must pay, but I warn you, she is not worth even one coin. She will bring you nothing but death." The human reached into his coat, pulling out the small bag he carried. He had saved his credits for food, for travel, for the long road ahead, but now his hands shook as he placed the bag in the trader's hands. The alien laughed, counting, then spat on the ground. "Foolish human, she is yours. May she destroy you." The cage opened with a hiss. The chains unlocked one by one. The girl fell forward, weak, but her eyes never left his. He stepped inside and caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was cold, trembling, but alive. She whispered again, "Thank you." "Thank you," the crowd muttered. Some angry, some amused, but all watching. The human lifted her gently, guiding her out of the cage. Step by step they moved toward the edge of the market, the weight of many eyes following them, whispers chasing their backs. "He has no idea what he has done," one voice said. "She is cursed, doomed." Another laughed. "He will not survive the night." A third hissed. But the human did not stop. His heart beat hard in his chest. His mind burned with questions. Who was this girl? Why was she chained like an animal? Why did she choose him? Yet in that moment none of the answers mattered. He had made a choice, and that choice would change everything. As they stepped out of the market of chains, the alien girl clung weakly to his arm, her eyes shining with a strange light, a light that promised both danger and hope. And somewhere deep inside the shadows of the market, unseen eyes watched them leave, eyes that did not laugh, eyes that burned with hunger and hate. The hunt had already begun. The human carried the alien girl out of the market of chains, his steps heavy, His thoughts filled with doubt. The voices of the crowd still echoed in his ears, calling him a fool, warning him of death. But he did not look back. He kept walking through the streets of Veilon, holding her weak body close. The city around them was alive. Neon lights flickered above. Hovercrafts rushed through the sky. Traders shouted their prices. And strange music played from distant alleys, yet in his arms the girl was quiet. Her breath shallow, her eyes half closed. She seemed more like a fading candle than a living being. He reached a small corner far from the market. Where the shadows were thick and the noise softer, there he set her down gently against a wall. He knelt beside her, unsure of what to say. His voice came out low, filled with confusion. "Why did I do this? Why you? Why me?" Her eyes opened slowly. Glowing faintly in the dark, she whispered, "Because no one else would listen. No one else would see me as more than chains." He studied her face, the marks burned into her skin. Strange glowing symbols that looked older than anything he had ever seen. He wanted to ask what they meant, but before he could, a deep sound echoed nearby, the sound of heavy boots striking metal ground. The human froze, looking around the alley, and then he saw them. 3 mercenaries stepping out of the smoke, tall and armored, their helmets glowing red. Each carried a weapon, their voices cruel and cold. "There she is, the cursed one, hand her over, human. And we might let you live," the girl gasped, pulling herself closer to the wall. Fear filling her eyes, she whispered, "Please, don't let them take me, they will chain me again." Worse than before, the human's heart raced. He had no weapon, no armor, no plan, only his choice. He could walk away, leave her, save himself. But when he looked into her eyes, he remembered the cage, the laughter, the cruelty. He could not return her to that fate. He stood tall, his voice louder than he expected. "No, she's not yours anymore." The mercenaries laughed, their helmets buzzing. "You think you can stop us? Human, you are nothing, you are weak. She belongs to the Empire." One of them raised his weapon, a long spear of energy. It hummed with deadly power. The human stepped in front of the girl, his hands shaking but firm. "If you want her, you will have to go through me." The mercenaries charged, their boots slamming the ground, their weapons flashing. The human moved fast, pulling the girl with him, rolling behind a pile of crates. The first blast hit the wall. Sparks exploded. The smell of burning metal filled the air. The girl reached out with her chained hands, her voice desperate. "I can help, I can fight. But I cannot control it, you must trust me." The human looked at her, his heart torn, but there was no time. The mercenaries were closing in. "Do it, whatever you can. Do it now," he shouted. Her eyes glowed brighter. The symbols on her skin lit like fire. She screamed, not of fear but of power. And in that moment the air itself changed. A wave of energy burst from her body, invisible yet strong. It struck the mercenaries, throwing them backward into the walls, their weapons flying from their hands, their armor sparking. The human shielded his face, the force shaking him. When the wave faded, he opened his eyes. The mercenaries lay on the ground groaning, broken but alive, smoke rising from their armor. The girl fell forward, weak again, her light dimming. "I cannot hold it long," she whispered. "Every time I use it, it takes more from me." The human caught her, his mind racing. Her power was real, her curse was real, but it was not evil, it was survival. It was something more. He looked at the fallen mercenaries and knew they would not stop. Others would come, stronger, faster. The whole empire would come for her. He whispered to himself, "What have I done? What choice did I make?" But deep inside he also felt something new. Not just fear, but purpose. He had saved her once, and now he would have to keep saving her, no matter the cost. The girl looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. "You should leave me. Human, I am hunted, I am doomed. If you stay with me, you will share my fate." But he shook his head, his voice firm though his heart trembled. "No, I made my choice when I opened that cage. I will not abandon you now." In the distance, alarms began to ring. Red lights flashed across the sky. Voices shouted through the streets. The city was waking to the danger. The Empire knew she was free. The hunt had begun. The human lifted her once more, carrying her through the maze of alleys. His breath heavy, his steps fast. Behind him the sound of soldiers grew louder, but he did not stop. He had chosen his path. As they vanished into the night, the city whispered, the market laughed. And unseen eyes watched again. This time not with hunger, but with fear. For one human had made a choice, and that choice would ripple through the stars. The streets of Veilon turned into a maze of danger. The human moved fast, carrying the alien girl through narrow alleys, His heart beat loud in his chest. Alarm screamed in the distance. Red warning lights cut across the night sky. The Empire was already looking for them. The girl clung weakly to his shoulder, her chains rattling softly. Every step made her body shake, but her eyes stayed open, watching, guiding, whispering, "Not that way, the soldiers will block it, take the left. The shadows are safer." Her voice was weak but filled with strange certainty, as if she could feel danger before it arrived. The human trusted her words. Turning down a path lined with broken stalls and flickering signs, the smell of smoke and old oil filled the air. Behind them came the heavy sound of boots, many boots. The soldiers were close. Their voices echoed. "Find the cursed one. Do not let the human escape." The human pushed forward, sweat covering his face. His arms burned from carrying her weight, but he would not stop. His mind screamed to run faster. Every turn felt like the last, until finally they reached the edge of the city, where the lights of Veilon faded into darkness. Ahead stretched the wastelands, endless sand and broken rock, glowing faintly under the twin moons. Wind howled across the dunes, carrying dust into the sky. The human stopped for a breath, his chest rising and falling hard. "We cannot outrun them forever," he whispered. His voice cracked with exhaustion. The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with both fear and fire. "No, but we can hide, we can survive. The wastelands are dangerous. But the Empire will not follow too deep. They fear what sleeps out there." Her words sent a chill down his spine, but he had no choice. Behind them, the city roared with searchlights and armored vehicles. Soldiers spread like ants, closing in. He took a deep breath, adjusted his grip on her, and stepped into the desert. The sand crunched under his boots. The air grew colder. Each gust of wind stung his face. The girl leaned her head against him, whispering, "You should have left me, human. You had a chance to walk away." He shook his head, his voice calm though his body shook. "I told you I made my choice. I will not leave you." Hours passed like years, the desert stretched endlessly. But the human never slowed. He carried her, sometimes dragging his feet, sometimes stumbling, but always moving forward. Then came the sound, distant but sharp. The engines of pursuit, lights cutting across the horizon. The Empire had sent their hunters into the wasteland after all. Hovercrafts floated low over the sand, their spotlights searching, their weapons ready. The human cursed under his breath. He pulled the girl down behind a dune, pressing them both against the cold sand. The lights swept across the ground. The sound of engines roared closer. The girl touched his hand, her fingers cold. "I can stop them, but if I use my power again, I may not wake after." The human's heart twisted. He looked at her pale face, her trembling lips. He could not ask her to sacrifice herself, he whispered. "No, not yet. We will find another way." The hovercraft slowed, their lights searching. Soldiers shouted orders. One beam of light came dangerously close, brushing over the dune. The human held his breath, his body tense. Every second stretched long. Then a sudden roar shook the ground, not from the machines, but from the desert itself. The sand split open. A massive creature rose, its body covered in stone-like scales, its mouth wide with rows of glowing teeth. The soldiers screamed. Their hovercrafts fired beams of light, but the beast moved fast, striking one craft with its tail, smashing it into the ground. The human and the girl clung to each other, watching as chaos unfolded. The soldiers fought the beast, their weapons flashing, but the monster was stronger, tearing metal apart like paper. The desert itself became their enemy. The human whispered, almost to himself, "This is what they fear. This is why they do not follow deep." The girl nodded weakly, her voice barely heard. "Yes, the desert belongs to them, not the Empire." Using the distraction, the human crawled with her across the sand, moving from dune to dune, staying low. The soldiers were too busy to notice. Their screams and weapons filled the night. The beast roared louder, shaking the air. Finally, far from the battle, the human collapsed behind a ridge, gasping for air. His arms burned with pain, but they were alive for now. He looked at the girl. Her glowing eyes met his, and in that moment he knew she was more than just a prisoner, more than a curse. She was a spark in the dark, she whispered. "You saved me again, human, but the Empire will not stop. They will chase us across stars, across worlds. They will not rest until I am in chains." The human clenched his fists, his voice steady. "Then we will not rest either. They may have soldiers, weapons, and ships, but we have something they fear more. We have each other." Far behind them, the desert burned with light. The Empire's hunters fought against the beast. Some destroyed, some fleeing, but others would come stronger, better prepared. The human lifted the girl once more, the cold wind biting his face, the moons above watching silently. Their journey had only just begun, and in the shadows of the dunes, unseen figures watched, not soldiers, not beasts, but something else. Their eyes glowed faintly, their voices low. The girl is free, and she has found a protector. This will change everything. The wasteland stretched endlessly. The human and the alien girl moved slowly through the dunes. The night was cold. The stars above burned bright, and the wind whispered like ghosts. Each step felt heavy, yet the human did not stop. He carried her when she was too weak. He held her steady when the sand slipped. His breath was sharp and his body ached, but his will remained strong. At last they reached the ruins. Ancient stones half buried in the desert. Tall arches broken, walls cracked and leaning. Strange symbols carved deep into the rock, glowing faintly under the light of the moons. It looked like a forgotten city. Silent yet alive, the girl touched the stone with her chained hands, her eyes glowing softly. "This place, my people once walked here," she whispered, her voice trembling with both sorrow and memory. The human looked at her, confused. "Your people? You mean others like you, the ones with glowing eyes?" She nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the symbols. "Yes, I am the last of them, at least the last who is free. The Empire hunted us, destroyed us, because of what we carry inside. A power they could not control, a power they feared." The human felt a chill. He sat beside her, his voice low. "What power? What are you hiding?" She turned her gaze to him, her star-like eyes deep and endless. "The energy you saw in the alley, the force that threw the mercenaries away, that is only a fragment. Inside me is a core of light. It is not mine alone. It is the legacy of my people. We were created to guard it, to use it for balance. But the Empire saw it as a weapon. They feared we could end them, so they chose to end us first." Her words cut through the night like blades. The human listened, his heart heavy. "So they chained you, sold you, because you were the last. They wanted to break you, control you." Tears shimmered in her glowing eyes. She shook her head. "No, not just control. They wanted to erase. If I die, the legacy dies, the power fades, and the Empire wins." The human clenched his fists, anger rising inside him. He remembered the laughter of the market, the cruel faces, the chains burning her skin, and now he understood it was not only cruelty, it was fear. The Empire feared what she was, what she carried. For a long moment, silence stretched. The desert wind howled through the broken arches. The stars burned cold. The girl leaned back against the stone, weak but calm, her voice softer. "You saved me, human, but you do not know what you have done. You did not just buy a slave. You carried the last light of a people, the last seed of a war greater than you imagine." The human looked at her, his face set, his voice steady. "Then I will carry it again. I will carry you no matter what comes, because if I leave you, if I let them take you, then everything ends. And I will not allow that." Her lips trembled into a faint smile, a smile filled with both sorrow and hope. "You are strange, human. My people used to believe mercy was weakness, but now I see mercy is your strength. That is why you are dangerous to the Empire. More dangerous than me." The human said nothing, but his heart felt heavy. He did not see himself as strong. He was just a wanderer, a man who made one choice. Yet now that choice had grown into something greater. Suddenly a noise broke the silence. A sharp crack in the distance, the human's eyes narrowed. He pulled her close, his body tense. Shadows moved between the ruins, slow, careful. Not beasts, not soldiers, something else. From the darkness stepped figures, tall and cloaked, their eyes glowing faintly, not red like the Empire, but soft like starlight. Their voices calm but strange. "The last child of the light walks among us. And she is not alone," the girl gasped, her voice filled with shock. "It cannot be, you were destroyed." "I thought I was the last." The figures lowered their hoods, revealing faces similar to hers. Silver skin, glowing eyes, marks etched into their skin. They bowed slightly. One spoke, "And not destroyed. Only hidden. We waited, we watched. We feared to rise. But now you are here, and the human who chose you walks with you. The time has come." The human looked between them, confusion filling his face. "You mean she is not the last, you survived?" The girl's tears fell, but they were tears of hope. She reached out with trembling hands. "I am not alone after all this time. I am not alone." The cloaked one nodded. "No, but we cannot stay in the open. The Empire's eyes are everywhere. They will come. They will burn the ruins if they find us. You must move. All of you." The human helped the girl stand. Her body shaking, but her spirit stronger, she looked at him, her eyes shining. "Now you see, human, my chains were never just mine. They were chains on all of us, and because of your choice. Those chains are breaking." The human tightened his grip on her arm, his voice steady and strong. "Then let them break. Let the Empire fear what they tried to destroy, because I will not let them bind you again." The ruins trembled as the wind roared louder, the stars burned brighter, and in the distance the sound of engines returned. The Empire had not stopped the hunt. It had only begun, and now the human knew the truth. He was not protecting only one girl. He was carrying the hope of an entire people, and maybe, just maybe, the hope of something even greater. The ruins did not stay silent for long. The human, the alien girl, and the hidden survivors moved carefully through the broken city. The wind carried whispers of danger. Every stone seemed to shake with warning. The girl walked slowly, supported by the human, her chains still rattling softly, though her spirit now glowed with the hope of finding her people alive. But hope is fragile, and the Empire wastes no time. Far above the desert, black ships cut through the night sky, their engines burning like fire, their spotlights sweeping across the land. They had tracked the human and the girl, and now they were closing in. The cloaked survivors looked up, fear flashing in their glowing eyes. One of them spoke quickly. "We must scatter. If they see us together, they will know we live. They will kill us all." The girl shook her head weakly. "No, we cannot scatter. If we run again, we will always run. There must be a stand, a moment where we do not hide, a moment where we fight." The human looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then let that moment be here." Before they could say more, the ruins exploded with light. Beams of energy cut through the stones. Walls shattered, dust filled the air. The Empire had arrived. Soldiers in black armor poured in from the ships, their weapons glowing, their voices cold. "Seize the cursed one, kill the human, burn the rest." The survivors moved fast, their hands glowing with the same strange energy as the girls. Though weaker, they raised barriers of light. Blocking the blasts, the air shook with sound. The ruins became a battlefield. The human pulled the girl behind a fallen wall, his breath sharp. "Stay low. Do not move," he whispered. But she shook her head, her star-like eyes burning brighter. "No, if I stay low, if I stay silent, they will win. And all of this will mean nothing." Before he could stop her, she raised her chained hands, light bursting from her skin. A wave of energy struck the soldiers, sending them crashing into the sand, but her body shook with pain. The marks on her skin burned like fire. She cried out, and the human caught her before she fell. "Enough," he begged. "You will destroy yourself." But she looked at him, her voice breaking. "Better to burn than to be chained again." The soldiers regrouped. Their commander stepped forward, taller than the rest, his armor lined with red symbols, his voice deep and cruel. "You cannot win, girl. You are a shadow of your kind, weak and broken. Surrender, and we may let the human live." The human stood tall, pulling the girl behind him, his voice sharp. "No, she will not go with you, not now, not ever." The commander laughed, the sound cold and heavy. "A human protects her, how foolish. Your kind is nothing but dust, you do not know what she is. She will end you." But the human did not move. His fists clenched, his heart steady. "If she ends me, then so be it. But she will never belong to you." The battle grew louder. The survivors fought bravely, their light colliding with the Empire's fire. But they were outnumbered, outgunned. The ruins shook with each strike. Stones fell. Dust rose, the ground itself seemed to cry. The girl's power surged again, her chains glowing as if resisting her. The symbols on her skin blazed like fire, she screamed, unleashing another wave. The commander staggered, but his armor absorbed the blast. He moved closer, his blade shining. The human grabbed a broken metal rod from the ground. Holding it like a weapon, he stepped forward, ready to face the armored giant, even though he knew he stood no chance. The commander raised his blade, ready to strike. But then something strange happened. The ruins themselves glowed. The ancient symbols carved in the stone lit up, responding to the girl's power. Light spread through the ground, the walls, the arches. A hum filled the air, deep and old. The soldiers hesitated, fear flashing in their eyes. The commander looked around, his voice sharp. "What is this? What trick is this?" The girl's eyes widened, tears falling. "The ruins. They remember us, they remember my people." The light spread faster, rising into the sky like a beacon. The Empire's ships above trembled, their engines sputtered, their weapons flickered. The human shielded his eyes, holding her close. As the ruins awakened for a moment, the battlefield froze, silence fell. Only the hum of ancient power filled the night. The girl whispered, her voice both afraid and hopeful. "This place is not dead, it is alive." "It is with us," the commander growled, ordering his soldiers forward. But they hesitated, their weapons shaking. The light from the ruins burned stronger. Pushing them back, the survivors raised their hands, adding their own energy, their voices chanting in a forgotten tongue. The human felt it too. A strange warmth flowing through him, not his power but hers, and yet somehow it reached him, binding them together, his voice low, steady. "We are not afraid of you anymore." The Empire's forces pulled back, their commander roaring in anger. "This is not the end. Human, this is not the end. We will return. With fire strong enough to turn this desert to ash, you cannot stop the Empire." With that, the soldiers retreated, their ships pulling away, the ruins still glowing, the survivors breathing hard, the girl trembling in the human's arms, her body weak but her eyes shining brighter than ever. She whispered, "Do you see now? Human, why they fear me, why they fear us, because we carry more than power. We carry the memory of what they cannot control." The human looked at her, his voice calm but fierce. "Then let them fear, because I will stand with you and I will not break." Above them, the stars seemed to burn brighter, as if the galaxy itself had witnessed the choice. The ruins hummed with ancient life, and far away in the Empire's dark halls, orders were given, ships prepared, armies stirred. The Empire had been shaken, but they were not finished. They would strike back harder, stronger, and sooner than anyone could imagine. The ruins still glowed faintly, but the light was fading, the ancient hum grew softer. The survivors gathered in the shadows, their faces pale, their energy drained. The alien girl lay weak in the human's arms, her eyes open but heavy, her voice soft. "They will return stronger than before. The Empire never stops." The human held her close, his jaw tight, his mind heavy with the weight of truth. She was right. The Empire had only tested them tonight. They would come again with more soldiers, more ships, more fire. They would not allow hope to survive in the desert. They would crush it before it spread. The survivors whispered among themselves, their voices low. "We cannot run forever. They will hunt us to the ends of the stars," one said. "We must vanish deeper into the wastelands," another argued. But the human shook his head, his voice sharp. "If you vanish, if you hide, then you are already lost. The Empire wins when you fear. But if you fight, even if you fall, your light will spread." The survivors looked at him, surprised by his words. A lone human standing against the greatest empire in the galaxy. Yet his eyes burned with something they had not seen in years. Courage without power, mercy without chains. The alien girl touched his hand weakly, her fingers cold but her voice steady. "He is right, we cannot run, we cannot hide. Tonight we make our stand before dawn broke." The sound of engines filled the sky once more. Black ships descended like vultures. The ruins shook with their power. The air burned with their weapons, and this time they came with full force. Hundreds of soldiers marching in black armor, drones flying above, tanks rolling across the sand. The survivors trembled, but they raised their hands, their light flickering to life. The human stood tall among them, holding nothing but a broken rod of metal. Yet his stance was strong, his voice steady. "They may have numbers, they may have fire, but they do not have mercy. They do not have unity. Stand with me, fight with me. Together we are stronger than their chains." The alien girl pulled herself to her feet, her body weak but her spirit blazing. The chains on her wrists glowed as if resisting her. Yet she lifted her arms high, light bursting from her skin, brighter than the night. The ruins responded again, their ancient symbols glowing, the ground humming with forgotten strength. The Empire's commander stepped forward once more, his red-lined armor shining, his blade burning, his voice cruel. "You think you can win, you think you can stop the tide. Foolish girl, foolish human, you will die here, and your light will be buried forever." The girl's eyes glowed brighter, her voice echoing through the ruins. "No, even if I fall, even if I burn, my light will not die because he carries it now, and others will carry it after him." She looked at the human, her gaze steady. Together, the battle began with fire and thunder. The Empire's soldiers charged, their weapons burning the sand. Drones fired beams from above. Tanks roared forward. The ruins shook under the storm, but the survivors stood tall, their light colliding with the Empire's fire, sparks flying, the sky itself glowing with the clash. The human fought at the front, swinging his metal rod, striking down soldiers, dodging blasts, his body weak but his will unbroken. He fought not as a warrior, but as a shield, standing between the girl and the enemy again and again. Each strike meant for her he took upon himself. His arms bruised, his body cut, but he did not fall. The girl unleashed her power again and again, waves of light pushing soldiers back, breaking weapons, tearing drones from the sky, yet each blast drained her. Her body shook, her voice cracked, but she never stopped. Because each time she looked at the human, she saw his eyes filled with fire, refusing to let her stand alone. The commander moved through the chaos, cutting down survivors with his burning blade, his voice roaring, "You cannot win, you are nothing!" He charged at the human. Their weapons clashed, metal against fire, sparks flying. The human's arms shook with pain. But he did not move back, he roared, "I am human, and I will not bow." The girl raised her hands. Light blazing, her chains cracked. Pieces of glowing metal fell to the ground. Her voice echoed, "He stands with me, and I stand with him. Together we are not nothing. Together we are everything you fear." Her power surged stronger than before. Brighter than the sun, a wave of light burst from her body, spreading across the battlefield. Soldiers were thrown back, drones shattered in the sky, tanks exploded into flames. The commander staggered, his armor cracking, his voice filled with rage. "No, this cannot be." The human shielded his eyes, his body shaking from the force. But when the light faded, he stood, holding her as she collapsed, her chains broken, her wrists bleeding, but her eyes glowing with peace. The ruins hummed louder than ever, their cymbals blazing. The survivors raised their hands, their voices chanting, adding their strength to hers. The Empire's army faltered. Fear in their ranks, soldiers stumbled back, their weapons falling. The commander roared one last time, but even he stepped back, his armor smoking, his blade dimming. The Empire retreated once more, broken, humiliated, their ships pulling away, their voices silent. The desert filled with smoke and light, the ruins still glowing, the survivors breathing hard but alive. The girl lay in the human's arms, her body weak, her voice soft. "We stood together, human, and together we won. But this is not the end. They will come again, stronger, darker, and the galaxy will tremble." The human held her close, his voice steady. "Then let them come. Because no matter what they bring, no matter how many chains, they will never take your light again, not while I breathe." And for the first time in many years, the survivors of her people raised their heads with pride, their voices strong, their eyes glowing, because they had seen something the Empire feared more than power. They had seen a bond, a unity, a mercy stronger than fire. The desert night grew quiet once more. The ruins hummed like a heartbeat, and above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the whole galaxy was watching, waiting, knowing the war was only beginning. The ruins were quiet at last. Smoke drifted into the cold desert sky. Broken weapons and shattered armor lay scattered across the sand. The Empire had retreated, but everyone knew it was not over. They would return, stronger and hungrier for blood, yet in this silence there was also something new, something that had not existed for years: hope. The human sat on a fallen stone, his body bruised and tired, his hands shaking from the fight, but he did not care. He only cared for the girl in his arms. Her chains were gone, broken into pieces. Her skin was marked with burns and cuts, but her eyes still glowed. Softer now, but alive. She looked at him with a faint smile. "We are still here." The survivors gathered around, their glowing eyes filled with wonder. For centuries they had hidden, too afraid to rise, too afraid to fight. But tonight they had seen something impossible, not just the power of their people, not just the strength of their ruins, but the courage of one human who chose mercy over fear. One of the survivors, older than the rest, stepped forward, his voice deep and steady. "You have done what even we could not. Human, you stood when we would not. You chose to fight when you could have run. Tell us why. Why risk your life for her? For us." The human looked down at the girl, then at the glowing faces around him, his voice low but firm, "Because no one deserves chains. No one deserves to be treated like less than alive. I am only one man. I have no power, no weapons, no army, but I had a choice. And I chose not to walk away." The words were simple, but they cut deeper than any blade. The survivors bowed their heads, and the girl's eyes filled with tears. "Not of sorrow, but of something stronger," she whispered. "Do you see now? Why they fear humans, not because of weapons, not because of ships, but because of this. Mercy that cannot be chained." Far across the galaxy, in the Empire's dark halls, news of the battle spread. Commanders shouted, leaders argued, fear filled their voices. One human stood against us. And he won, they said. He did not stand with weapons, he stood with mercy. And the galaxy will hear of it. The Empire tried to bury the story to silence whispers, but it was too late. Traitors carried tales across the stars. Smugglers told the story in secret bars. Slaves whispered it in dark cages. Everywhere the word spread. The human who freed the chained girl. The human who defied the Empire. The human who chose mercy. On distant worlds, sparks of rebellion lit. People who had given up now raised their heads. They began to believe that chains could be broken, that mercy could be stronger than fear. The Empire's shadow grew weaker, not because its ships failed, but because its enemies had hope again. In the ruins, the survivors built fires. Their chants rose into the night, not chants of sorrow, but of rebirth. The girl sat beside the human, leaning against him, her voice soft but steady. You did not just save me, you saved all of us. You gave us back our courage. The human shook his head. His voice calm. No, I only made a choice. The rest was always inside you, you only needed to see it. She smiled faintly, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars above. Then let us show the galaxy. Let us spread this mercy. Let them know we are not broken. We are not slaves. We are alive, the survivors nodded, their faces set with determination. For the first time in centuries, they did not speak of hiding. They spoke of rising, of carrying their light across the stars, of joining with others who suffered under the Empire. The girl touched the broken pieces of her chains, still glowing faintly in the sand. She whispered, "These chains once defined me. They called me cursed, dangerous, doomed, but now they are nothing because mercy broke them, and mercy will break more." The human placed his hand over hers, his voice steady. Then let us carry these pieces, not as reminders of pain, but as proof that no chain lasts forever. The night deepened. The moon shone bright. The ruins hummed softly, alive again with power, and in that silence, the bond between them grew stronger. The girl and the human, two souls from different worlds, bound not by blood, not by power, but by choice. Somewhere in the desert, the wind carried whispers, whispers that reached far beyond sand and stone, whispers that would become legend. Humans are dangerous, not because of fire, but because of mercy, not because of fear, but because of hope. The girl closed her eyes, resting against him, her voice no more than a breath. You did not just save me, human, you changed everything. The human looked at her, at the survivors, at the glowing ruins, and finally at the stars above. His voice calm, almost a promise. Then let this change begin. Let the Empire learn that mercy is stronger than their chains, and so the story began to spread. Across deserts, across stars, across hearts that had forgotten how to hope. The story of a human who bought a chained girl not for power, not for gold, but for mercy. And how that single act lit a fire that the Empire could never put out. The market of chains was no more. The ruins sang with life, and in the darkness of space, the galaxy began to change.